I invest in so many companies, and I talk to so many, and I help them. I see the struggles, I see the opportunity, I see the heart, I see the fear sometimes when you're running the business. And if Donald Trump is elected, that 60% across the board tariffs, or even worse, can put them out of business, which is exactly why we need Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States of America.
That was billionaire entrepreneur Mark Cuban making the case for Vice President Harris on the campaign trail. I sat down with Cuban to discuss why he's backing Kamala Harris, the stakes of this election, and his own political aspirations. So you've been out there campaigning with Kamala Harris. How's it looking? Is she going to win?
I think so, for sure. I mean, when you go to one of her campaigns, she is just a dynamic speaker. I mean, the crowd is engaged. The energy is off the charts. I mean, if that's any indication, she's going to win easily.
So I've heard you say a couple times that she's not a good salesperson.
Right.
Isn't that important, not just in a campaign, but in being president?
Well, there's different types of salespeople, right? There's salespeople with lousy products that have to oversell. That's Donald Trump. Then there's other salespeople who may not be as boisterous and relentless, but know that they have a great product, so they don't have to be boisterous and relentless. That's Kamala Harris.
Now, Trump has a basic message which he gives, and it's not all based on facts, to say the least. But the basic thing is, the economy was great when I was president. It's a total disaster ever since, Biden took over. I'm going to make it great again. What do you say to people who are saying, look?
You can use whatever metric you want. The economy is in great shape. That does not mean every single individual in this country is experiencing all the goodness of the economy, but that was the same under the Trump administration as well. The stock market's at record high, the GDP's at record high, real wages are greater than inflation now. Inflation is back down, in the 2.5%, 3% range variably. Jobs are still, we're getting an incredible jobs report. This goes back to the salesmanship, and this applies to Joe Biden. I'm not going to throw Joe on the bus, but he's not a great salesperson. Donald Trump is saying this stuff that's not true, and the old saying, you repeat a lie enough, people will start believing.
Now, you're not a Democrat.
No.
You're not a Republican.
No. I think for myself.
So, you voted for Nikki Haley in the Republican primary.
Yeah.
Would you be supporting her right now if she was the Republican nominee?
Not against Kamala, against Biden, maybe.
And what do you make of Kamala? Now, you've spent time with her.
Sure.
You've gotten to know her more. You've been out there with her.
Yeah.
What's your sense of her? Like, what kind of president would she be?
I think she'd be great because she's open-minded. She's not an ideologue. She's not dogmatic. She wants to get input from everybody. I haven't given her a penny. People think, oh, you're giving her a lot of money. No, I haven't given a penny.
Why haven't you?
I haven't given a penny to a candidate since 2002. Yeah, and it's just like, my attitude is, if I have a good idea and if I feel passionate about the candidate, I'll help. I don't want them to work with me because I paid them to work with me.
What did you think of Harris when she was running for president the first time around, 2019?
I think I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. But look, when you...
But you know the position she took. She was Medicare for all. It was a Green New Deal.
But she was representing the state of California. You can call it the People's Republic of California, right? And so when you have a far left state, you're gonna do what those your citizens want. When you're representing the United States of America, it's a much broader and
But she took those positions when she was starting to run for president.
I get that. I get that. But here's where we are now. That was not a very long-lived run, and I think she learned the hard way that certain.
Do you think she believed that stuff, or was she doing it to run?
I think she believed it for sure. But I mean, look, she has to speak for herself in those things. What I do like about her is she continuously says she's open-minded, and she's proved it. I've changed a lot of my positions in the past 5 years. Donald Trump has changed his. I think a lot of reasonable people have changed theirs. And, to say this was your position for Medicare for all, this was your position on whatever it may be, and to be shocked that somebody changed their mind, it's a bigger shock that someone's shocked.
Has she done a good enough job explaining to people why she's changed her mind on the border, for instance? I mean, she's done a good enough job.
There's two elements there. One, she's only been running for 13 weeks. And when she started to run, when she replaced Joe Biden, she had a deficit in awareness. Even Donald Trump would say, well, I don't even know who Harris is. You guys know who Harris is? And she had negative favorables. And so she had to spend the last 13 weeks just letting people get to know her and, getting to see that she is vibrant, she is smart, she is open-minded. And so when you're trying to win that battle, You're not going to answer all the specifics of every, have the opportunity to answer all the specifics. And the proof is in the pudding. She went from, as I said, negatives and, being right where Joe Biden is, and in 13 weeks, they're in a dead heat and it's a toss-up.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that look at the incoming that Trump has had. I mean, he's got his former chief of staff saying that he's a fascist, that he admired Hitler, that he called American heroes suckers and losers because they died in battle for America, and the race is still tied.
Yeah. Well, in 13 weeks, again, in 13 weeks, how far can anybody go? She's done an amazing thing that I think will be written favorably about in the history books. To go from nowhere, from the outhouse to the penthouse, that's not easy.
Now, she's called Trump a fascist now, too. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's not far from him calling her a communist.
Well, he's actually called her a fascist, too. He's called her
and a fascist, too, right?
Yeah,
so,
everything.
I mean, the name calling, in a normal world, the two parties would get together and say, let's just stop this name calling, right? Let's just focus on the issues. But this is not a normal world. Donald Trump is not a normal candidate. And I think it's not a stretch to call Donald Trump a fascist. You talked about the people in his cabinet that spoke the same way. He's talking about the enemy within and going after people using the military. He's talked about mass deportations where, they'll stop people on the street and check their papers. What does that remind you of? Talking about, knocking on doors and pulling people out and deporting them. What does that remind you of? That's pretty damn close to fascism, if not the definition of fascism.
So at the risk of going full Shark Tank, I want to show you
Fire
something.
away. Friday nights on ABC?
Something that Kevin O'Leary said just the other about this.
The Jan 6 deal has been in the market forever. This rhetoric from people saying Trump is a Nazi and a fascist in the market forever. Do you really want to spend your closing statements on old stuff that's already needled into 45% of the country that hates them?
That's like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Lincoln, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the play. This is not new. Is it unnerving to a certain extent that, half of America continues to support him? Yes. Is there a reason? In my mind, it's leadership. If you don't have strong leadership, and Joe Biden did a lot of great things. I think the economy and many other things the CHIPS Act. There's so many great things he's done, but a leader he's not, and he's effective. And I think Kamala is a leader.
But you do hear from a lot of serious people that, look, I don't like the rhetoric, I don't like the stuff he says, but I think he'll take the country in a better direction on the economy or whatever.
But then you ask them for
like
the details.
Policies.
You ask them for the details. There are none. And that's one of the reasons I'm a surrogate, because I can go into the nitty-gritty of any business topic you want to talk about. And I can tell you the difference between Kamala Harris's plan and whatever evidentiary things we have from Donald Trump.
I want to ask you about what Trump has said a lot about you, but can I just read one of his posts just to get you? He says, Mark Cuban is a loser, wouldn't take his phone calls anymore at the White House, and he went rogue, a weak and pathetic bully. He's got nothing going. So that's what Trump has to say.
Well, you left out the best part.
Oh, I did? Oh, really low club speed, a total non-athlete.
I can outdrive him all day, any day. So what? I don't care. We have this give and take. When that's who he is. He's very transactional.
There was a nanosecond where you thought it was a good thing that he got involved in politics. When he was running for president.
Yeah, when he first ran, I didn't think he had a chance to win, but I'm like, this is great. He's not a traditional politician, and I thought that would be a net positive. I was wrong.
Did you? I know you briefly looked at running in 2020.
Yeah,
2020.
Yeah.
And what about this time? I mean, there was talk about you. No chance at all.
No chance. I have no interest. I have no interest in being a politician of any type. I have no interest in serving in the cabinet for Kamala Harris or anybody. I like being a disruptor as an entrepreneur.
And finally, in the presidential race, you have a situation where both sides are saying that if the other side wins, it's basically the end.
Armageddon, yeah.
I mean, it's like the worst possible thing. Trump says we won't have a country anymore. Kamala Harris suggests we won't have American democracy anymore. What do you make of that?
I mean, hyperbole is nothing new.
But it's more this year, isn't it?
I mean, you hear the stories about people saying, I'll leave the country and all that.
Yeah.
Trump wins. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm an American first. I'll do whatever I can to help this country wherever I can. And it doesn't matter to me who's president. But
it's not the end of democracy.
I hope not. Do I think that Donald Trump has fascist tendencies? Absolutely, positively. I do believe Donald Trump poses a threat. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I think it's a greater than 0%. And to me, I mean, just look at January 6th. Just look, I mean, literally, if anybody here that works for you, if someone was chanting outside, hang Mark Cuban, you all would rally around me and try, let's figure this out. To have somebody who's second in command and they're chanting, hang Mike Pence, and you don't care, there's nothing you won't do.
But with all that, are Democrats going to accept the results?
Yes.
If Donald Trump wins?
Yes.
Even all that you just said?
Yes.
And what it means?
Yes. Now, they'll go to work, and try to make sure our institutions remain solid. But I think this all resides with Donald Trump. Maybe he has a few acolytes that he'll hire that will support him in some of these crazy things like he did before, with fewer adults in the room this time. But I do think those people around him will try to support our own our long-term institutions. But I can't say with 100% certainty that he won't overcome that and do something that really sets us back. I mean, we wouldn't be the first democracy that had to take a big step back to move forward.
Our thanks to Mark Cuban.